The skeletal system is a framework of bones within your body, whose arrangement determines how your body moves. The shape of the individual bones and the ways that they fit together allow you to stand and walk and determine how the different parts of your body move. Your spine is the central column that supports your body's weight. It is a stack of small bones called vertebrae. These bones are connected by joints, which allow them to move a little in relation to one another. At the top of the spine, the first two vertebrae support your skull. The upper bone is called the atlas, after the mythical Greek god who holds up the earth. The second vertebra is called the axis. It is a joint between the atlas and your skull that allows you to move your head up and down. A different joint between the atlas and the axis allows you to rotate your head from side to side. The next group of vertebrae supports the bones of your shoulder girdle and the bones of your ribs. Rib bones form a cage that protects the soft tissues of your heart and lungs. Your ribs are loosely joined to your breastbone in a way that allows the entire structure to move as you breathe. Below the ribs, your spinal vertebrae are larger and stronger. These bones carry all the weight of your upper body. All the vertebrae are connected by joints that allow them to work together. Except at the atlas and the axis, the individual joints permit very little movement, but those small movements add up for the spine as a whole. Flexible and strong, it can bend in broad, gentle curves. The spine's overall shape is an S-curve. It helps you balance the weight of your body when you stand upright. A dog doesn't need this S-curve because it rarely stands upright. Neither does a human baby. But when that baby begins to stand upright and walk, it soon develops the S-curve, which helps balance its weight. Unfortunately, standing upright has a disadvantage. It puts a heavy burden on the lower part of your spine. Those bottom few vertebrae must support the weight of your entire upper body, as well as any weight you lift.
Many of us have a lot of difficulty with pain in the low back area, and the origin of this problem can really be traced back to the mechanics of how the back is used on a day-to-day basis for trivial things throughout our lives. And on this model, we have the pelvis and the low back region. The reason we have difficulty with back pain caused by lifting traces directly back to the alignment of the low back area, which you're seeing on a side view here. The low back is made up of a stack of bones, disc, bone, disc, bone, disc, and this vertical stack at all times is designed really to be vertical. So when one goes to lift, it's important to keep the low back area straight. Most of us break the rules and have a tendency to bend forward with that vertical stack, thereby pinching the discs and causing a lot of low back pain. So we have found that if we as young adults and adults are able to control our lifting in a proper method, that this cumulative damage that occurs over the years doesn't occur and we have less back pain.
Here is the wrong way to set a weight down. A better way to do this is by keeping the spine upright, letting the legs do most of the work.
Proper sitting is very important to protect your low back area, and to sit properly you need to have the right chair. The elements of a good chair for your spine are that it have a flat seat so that your thighs are parallel to the floor, that it have armrests so you can push down to help yourself arise and to lower yourself, and that you have lumbar support in your belt line area. Also, it's important that the chair have 4 solid legs.
At the base of your spine, your lower vertebrae are attached to the bones that make up the pelvic girdle. It supports your abdominal organs. The bones of the pelvis are fused together, making it strong enough to bear the weight of your torso. A woman's pelvis is shaped differently from a man's. This affects how she can move her legs. A woman's pelvis gives her a shorter stride, but it allows her to give birth to babies. In contrast, a man's pelvis gives him a longer stride. In either case, it is your pelvis that distributes your body's weight to your legs. How can these long bones support so much weight? through a combination of structure and materials. Each leg bone is a cylinder, a shape that gives it strength. At each end, the bone tissue is spongy and light. This material is strong, but it doesn't add much weight. Bone is reinforced by a network of mineral deposits, mostly calcium, and fibers of protein, collagen. These deposits give bone compressional and tensile strength. But when too much stress is placed on a bone, it can break or fracture. Normally, it takes a lot of pressure to break a bone, but under weightless conditions, that can change. After a few weeks in orbit, an astronaut's bones begin to lose calcium. This makes the bones weaker and easier to break. To counteract this, astronauts do exercises that put gentle stress on their bones. This stimulates the bones to retain more calcium, so they lose less strength in zero gravity. Bones also lose minerals as people age, so older people's bones can break more easily. Young people also have accidents in which they break bones. But when you are young, more injuries happen to your joints when an unexpected twist produces a movement that the joint does not permit. Most joints permit at least one kind of movement. An exception to this is the skull. Here, bones are tightly fit together so that the joints allow almost no movement. Also unusual are tiny bones within the skull, the 3 bones in each middle ear. They vibrate in response to sound waves and transfer vibrations from your eardrums along their joints to the inner ear, where they are interpreted by your nervous system. More typical are the joints between your pelvis and your upper legs, which take the form of a ball and socket. Because the ball can rotate in the socket, you can rotate each leg in relation to your torso. This allows you to change directions quickly. Your knee, a very complex joint between your thigh bone and the bones of your lower leg, basically takes the form of a hinge. A hinge only moves in 2 directions, forcing your upper and lower leg to stay aligned with one another. This limited range of movement makes twisting the knee a common injury. The knee is the most complex joint in the human body. Cartilage covers the bone ends, cushioning the joint. It is also protected by pads of fat and sacs of fluid called bursa. Cartilage doesn't repair itself as easily as bone cells do, so it's important to avoid smashing or twisting a knee and damaging its cartilage. That kind of injury can be very slow to heal. In your ankle, the joints allow only a small range of movement. This helps stabilize the ankle when it bears the entire weight of your body, plus the stresses of walking, running, or jumping. Within your feet, the joints are a little more flexible. They permit movements that help your feet push you forward when you walk. The stresses on each foot are very strong and very complicated. People wear shoes to help their feet absorb these stresses without damage either to the feet themselves or to the rest of the skeletal system. But it takes a good deal of science to design a proper shoe.
The design of the modern running shoe is to accommodate the stresses that are put on the foot. As an example, the normal runner will have a heel strike on the outside of the heel and come along the outer border of the foot, across the forefoot and off his big toe. Some of us have a flat foot, or some of us have a higher arch foot, and that puts different stresses on the foot. To accommodate for that, the shoe design has been changed. Specifically, the heel has been made a little bit broader to distribute the forces. There's a wedge in the heel so that you put less stress on your Achilles tendon. The inner side of the heel is usually made of a firmer material than the outer side of the heel to kind of force the foot into a different position so that the stresses on the foot will come along the outside border. Without that, a person who's flat-footed would tend to land on the inside of his heel and traverse all the way down the inside of the foot and off his big toe, and that creates a tremendous amount of abnormal force in the mid-portion of the foot.
There's an important difference in the way your lower and upper body's bones are arranged. The limbs of your upper body have a wider range of movement, although their joints do not have as much strength and stability. For example, your shoulder is also a ball joint. This allows it a wide range of motion. However, its socket is shallow and the bones are far apart. This joint is easy to dislocate, but it gives your arm a wide range of movement. The joints at each elbow are different from your knee joints. The joint in your elbow can act like a hinge, as your knee does. But it also allows the bones of your lower arm to move back and forth over each other. As a result, you can rotate your wrist much farther than you can rotate your ankle. Like your ankle, your wrist has simple sliding joints, but your fingers have a much wider range of movement than your toes do. And your thumb has a joint which allows it to meet the other fingers. That's why it's so much easier to grasp things with your hands than with your feet. Because your shoulders, arms, and hands all move as a system, your upper body is very flexible, allowing you to reach in any direction. The bones of your skeleton work together. The central column of the spine, the supporting bones of your lower body, the mobile bones of your upper body. All these bones, connected by joints, determine the ways that you can move and make up your skeletal system.